Hello and welcome to Inspired to Taste. I'm Liz Joy, and today I'll be making 2 stylish tarts inspired by classic cocktails as gifts for several of my neighbors. Let's get started. All the tart cases and top decorations will be made from pâte sucrée, a pastry dough that's both sweet and crumbly with a shortbread-like texture. You can find the recipes and printable templates in the description below. When baking pâte sucrée, you really want it to be golden brown and very firm. I like to brush a coating of tempered cocoa butter or chocolate into my shells once they've cooled as a barrier against any moist fillings. Let's begin with the old-fashioned inspired tart. I'm going to make the topping decorations in 3 pieces. For the main tuxedo portion, I'm going to start by using poppy paint to paint the shirt directly onto the cookie surface. Poppy paint is nice and opaque and dries really fast, so it won't soak the pastry. Next, I'm going to pipe a lapel onto the right-hand side using hybrid consistency royal icing. Then I'm painting shirt pleats using a tiny nail art brush. I'm using very thinly rolled fondant as a base layer for the other, closer side of the tux. You can use just a tiny bit of water as glue. Then I'm piping a lapel onto this side as well. And using royal icing as glue to attach this to the base cookie. Once the royal icing has completely dried, I'm using a white food coloring marker to highlight the edge to make it stand out a bit more. For the bow tie, I'm starting with a rectangle of black fondant, crimping each end into an M shape to create a gathered effect. Then looping the ends together, attaching them to the cookie with icing, and using more royal icing to create the center knot. Next up is this arm, beginning with a base layer of peachy skin tone food coloring on the hand, followed by a layer of white royal icing for the cocktail. And more food coloring paint for the cuff. Once the royal icing has dried, I'm adding a wash of colors for the drink portion. Then a fondant sleeve. I decided to add an outline to this cuff for a cleaner edge. And then I'm adding ice cubes and highlights to the drink. I'm going to be pouring a layer of isomalt onto the cup, so I'm starting by building up a border with several layers of royal icing, making sure it's tall enough to contain the isomalt. Then I'm carefully pouring my melted isomalt. I want his fingers to be wrapped around the glass, so I'm going to build them up in several layers, allowing each to dry a bit before continuing. If you're enjoying this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. I really enjoy reading your comments and would love to hear if you're interested in seeing more desserts like these. And for a dashing touch, a jeweled cufflink. Once everything has dried, I'm using a brown food coloring marker to add outlines to the hand and fingers. For the filling of this old-fashioned inspired tart, I'm starting with a layer of bourbon-spiked caramel. Followed by a generous helping of orange-infused ganache. And for a sophisticated touch, a sprinkling of aged sea salt. Then I'm using ganache's glue to attach the decorations. Next up is the Balini. I'm going to be making these decorations in 3 pieces as well. Starting with a layer of peach flesh-toned food coloring. Then I'm using a simple brush embroidery technique to create a lacy look décolletage. I'm going to use very thinly rolled fondant to create her jacket, attaching each side with a quick brush of water, and using a clay tool to add a stitched effect. Then I can attach the face cookie. Next, I'm going to make a selection of jeweled pieces for her necklace and earrings, as well as for the gentleman's cufflink. First, I'm using royal icing to pipe outlines onto a transparent, heat-proof, food-safe mat. Once dry, I'm painting them with edible gold luster dust from Bakel. Then, I can carefully fill each outline with isomalt, which I dyed turquoise with edible pearl dust. And piping a few additional details that I'll paint gold. Now I can build her necklace using an assortment of my isomalt jewels, sprinkles, and royal icing. Adding an earring, then painting all the icing details gold. Now it's time for a little edible makeup. And then outlines in brown and details in black. The hat gets a base layer of turquoise fondant. Then I'm using a French star tip and stiff consistency royal icing to pipe a swirl of hair, and peachy pink royal icing to pipe a rose. After the rose has dried, I can secure it to the hat. For the arm, I'm painting a base layer for the glove directly onto the cookie surface. Then piping the champagne flute with hybrid consistency royal icing. Once that dries, I'm painting on a wash of food coloring. Then, just like with the other cocktail glass, I'm going to pipe several outlines on top of each other as a border for my isomalt. Once the isomalt has set, I'll build up her fingers with several layers of royal icing to make them look like they're wrapped around the stem of her champagne flute. The tart portion of the Balini will contain several fillings, beginning with a peach mousse and peach slices that have been soaked in vanilla syrup. Then I'm going to refrigerate this until the mousse has fully set. Next comes a coating of peach preserves, followed by what I'm calling nuage de prosecco, a fluffy and effervescent whipped cloud of prosecco gelée combined with whipped cream. Then I can carefully add my decorations. I coated the back of these with white chocolate first to make sure they wouldn't get soggy. Let's take a look at the final set.
3, 2, 1.